Hello, craft beer lovers. Welcome back to another episode of Bluegrass Brews. I'm your host, James Wolverton. I'll get this out of the way. If you like what you're seeing, trying to be more consistent on what I'm putting out, please hit that like, hit the subscribe, tell all your friends about it. Let's spread the word about good beer, craft beer, and ways to enjoy it here in Kentucky and beyond. It is football season. I'm happy and I can't celebrate that fall's coming because the director's not here. She's on a girls' weekend. She is a summer child, without a doubt. She's coming to grips that September is almost gone and it's going to be fall, but I tread lightly on that subject here. I'm happy. Fall's my season. Love football. Even the Dolphins. They make me cry, to quote Hootie and the Blowfish. Football and beer go hand in hand. There's no doubt. The problem is the market is dominated, especially during football time, by the big three. I could kind of understand the appeal. You want to concentrate on the game. You don't want to get too complex of a beer. You don't want too dark, too heavy, something to distract you from watching the game. Totally makes sense, but do you still have to drink beer-flavored beer? I say no. There's an answer to that. So the big three founders were started by Germans who brought their traditions over. Unfortunately, a lot of history in that. It'd be a fun episode to do, to break down the history of where we started with things that tasted a whole lot more like what they came from to 1950s and the mass-produced stuff that we have now. Not picking on them, but I think you can just do better flavor-wise and still not get so distracted by a beer that you can't watch the game. My solution is go back to what started it. German and Czechoslovakia, the true Pilsners. Now, we're going to do historical order because it makes the most sense. Piers Urquell was started in 1842 in the town of Pilsen, what's called Czechoslovakia. During that era of Germany and Bavaria countries and dukedoms and princedoms was kind of a jumble. So let's just call it Czechoslovakia to make it history. There's several YouTube channels you ever want to watch the history of Germany and how it became Germany we know today. I have, and it's really fun to watch. So Joseph Groll got hired to run this brewery. At the time, the brewery was so bad, the locals were bringing back the beer and dumping it on them because it was just awful. Just awful beer. And unfortunately, he just couldn't go over the next town over. It was a different era in the 1800s. So they hired Joseph Groll, and he decided to do a blonde style lager. Now, the reason this was popular and even possible is science and technology caught up. Beforehand, people didn't drink out of glass. Glass was very exclusive, very hard to make. Only the rich and privileged in the upper class could use glass. It began thanks to industrialization and technology caught up where more everyday folks could actually use glass. You could see what they were drinking. It was more stoneware, earthenware mugs. You didn't want to look awful, but you weren't as concerned. But once you can see the goldenness and the bubbles come up in this glass, it got really popular. Fortunately, that town has very, very soft water. I'm not 100% sure they knew it then because the chemistry involved, but fortunately the chemistry was involved where they can make a hoppy, pale, lagered beer. It's something really new. In 1842, it was a sensation. And you know what happens when things get really popular? There are imitators. Bring in Bitburger. So 1870 in Germany proper, not Bavaria, once again, very complicated, hard to keep up with. They started imitating and deconstructing and figuring out how to make their version of the Pilsner style, as it started being called from the name of Pilsen. So Bitburger actually Germany came and they began to do their own. So finally, last to the party would be Munich with the Munich Hells. Hells in German being light. Now, I'll go ahead and put this separate because it's a light beer, but style-wise, it's quite different from these. These are hop forward, malt secondary. The malt's the pure flavor here. It's what's forward. There are some wonderful hops involved in this, but it's not the star of the show like these tend to be so much forward. Speaking of hops, Pure Chikel is known for Saz, which is one of the noble hops in that area. Episode going on just hops because you could do episodes. Those are crazy. So if I was going to drink these and how to introduce them to, it would depend on my drinker. If it's someone coming purely from the big three, I mean mass-produced lager beers, I would probably start with the Hofbrau, i.e. the Munich Hells. It's not going to be as hop forward. It's going to be more familiar flavors, but more malt, more depth, more character, but still not enough that you're going to miss a touchdown, miss an interception, fumble. Not missing the game for it, but you're going to notice a whole lot more depth of your flavor. If you're coming from the craft beer movement, like pale ales, ambers, definitely IPAs, I would go with either of these two. Now, the Pure Chikel is still the hoppiest of the bunch. When the German Pilsner came out, it was competing, but as times go on, especially after World War II, it's become a whole lot less hoppy, but still nothing like Munich Hells. So let's meet our different people, although I'm only going to open this. If the producer was here, I would open the Munich Hells because that's one of her favorite beers. I'm going to stick with the Pilsner Urquell since it's what started it all. It's my favorite. That I'm not going to sit down and drink 3 beers today. I could, but I'm not going to. Got places to be later tonight. So Beer Urquell, 1842. A little bit of the history on it. So it is the earliest of the bunch. Go ahead and open that, pour that, and let that sit for a minute while I talk about the others. Bloop. A good friend of mine, Jared Sloan, gave me this Pilsner glass, and this is a glass designed for this style. It's kind of funny, and I'm planning on talking about the champagne of beers, but kind of that idea, especially when you get to the real footed Pilsner glasses where you can start seeing the bubbles come down. Got a similar color. Of course, the head's a whole lot more, but you can see the champagne of beers for that style. I will let that open. Bitburger, very, very, very old brewery. 1870, 17. So comparable with this. First Pilsner was they actually started deconstructing it and doing their own in 1883. Very popular brand in this style. I know where I work at Total, we sell a lot of it. And finally, Hofbrau Original, which is their Munich Hell. So the original is the Munich. That's 1589. I mean, we hadn't even been a country yet. There's a lot going on that. They didn't actually start making this to the 1890s. It was 1894. This style is the most popular in southern Germany. Hofbrau was looking at my notes, actually the Quartz Brew House. It started in Munich, Bavaria. Once again, not going to get into the history of the different areas at the time. Yeah, that is all hops. But there's still malt in that. It's not fully, but it's such a dry, crisp, hoppy finish. I think someone who did come from the American styles with the pale ales, definitely pale ale, maybe a bit of an IPA. For an IPA, the hops are going to be a little less, but this wouldn't be that much a discomfort. But I wouldn't quite call them crushable, but they certainly, you could probably get through a few of these in a football game without any problem at all. So that's my suggestion. Enjoy football, love football. I'm going to, but don't compromise on your beer just because you don't want to be distracted. There's some great flavors. You could still enjoy it. It's not beer flavored beer. It's where those got their start from, where they originally got their inspiration. Go over to Germany and Czechoslovakia and drink some great beers. Enjoy football. Enjoy fall. See you in a couple weeks. Yeah, I'll have to talk about the elephant-sized pumpkin in the room because it's out this year. It's everywhere. They're there. They come out every year. Kind of review them. Have to. But I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Remember, hit the like, hit the subscribe. Drink craft beer, drink good beer, but be responsible and be smart about it. See you guys in a couple weeks. Have a good afternoon. Take care.